What's up, Deckers? Welcome to another video. So as you guys know, the Nintendo Switch was just announced and it's getting a lot of bad press and publicity. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why, even with all that was announced with the latest Nintendo Switch Direct, I'm actually going to be keeping my Steam Deck after the Switch 2 announcement. So let's get right into that video. If that's something you guys were interested in, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into it. So the first being the Steam library. Say all that you want about the Nintendo Switch. It does have killer IPs. I get that Nintendo makes great games, but something that stands out is that the Steam Deck does have your access to your Steam library, and I have over 300 plus games on my Steam library. The fact that I have access to all these games and I don't have to pay an additional, $10 to $20 to get like an advanced version of previous games that I own, it's the reason why I'm excited about my Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch 2, because again, my Steam library just carries over instead of having to pay an additional price just to get an enhanced version of the game. Second reason why I'm keeping my Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch is because my Steam Deck is a PC. The Nintendo Switch is a console. So what makes the Steam Deck really great is the fact that, again, you have SteamOS if you want to play in handheld mode just like the Switch, but if you want to be productive, there's actually a PC built into this bad boy, so you can do stuff like surf the web, you can do stuff like PowerPoint notes and stuff like that if you were a college student. So again, you can get this device to game, and then you can get this device to be productive. Again, something that the Nintendo Switch doesn't offer. A third reason why I'm keeping my Steam Deck is because Valve support. Now, I can't tell you how many other devs supports a platform like Valve does. I'm not even kidding you. Every week we get an update that brings something new or bring fixes to the Steam Deck. Now, the Nintendo Switch, I do have to say I own a Switch, and Nintendo does a good job with the updates, but it's not as frequent as Valve. So if a game is not working, best believe that they're working on the Proton to make that work. So again, Valve support, bringing new features to the Steam Deck, as well as just updating games that are not supported. It's another reason why I'm keeping my Steam Deck over the Switch. Now, another reason why I'm keeping my Steam Deck over the Switch is that this has free online and this has free cross save. Again, with access to over 300 plus games in my Steam library, I can be literally playing my Steam Deck in handheld form. I go to my PC and my game saves carries over, which is really impressive. Again, if I want to hop online and play with friends, I can do that easily without Nintendo having to charge me to play online. So again, I feel like the online portion of Steam and the Steam Deck is a killer feature that is not advertised a lot, but that's another reason why I'm keeping my Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, the next reason why I'm keeping my Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch 2 is because of pricing. Guys, you guys have seen all the madness that's going on with the pricing. There was just an announcement that with tariffs, the original Switch might actually end up being $540, which is absolutely insane, to where you can get a Steam Deck now for under $300. I mean, the price is nuts difference wise. But also, let's talk about games, right? There's different ways that you can purchase PC games, right? There's humble bundles to where you can get a ton of games for a really good price. You have CD keys to where there's a whole dedicated website to where you can actually find cheap games, brand new games that are just released, you can find for cheap with CD keys. So there's different options, and then you have access to different stores that you can play with. Again, there's ways to get these stores on your Steam Deck, stuff like GOG and Ubisoft Connect and all that. So you have launches that you can play here, and Epic Game Store, there are free games that you can get from Epic that you can play on your Steam Deck for free. So when it comes to games, you have a ton of option to get affordable, cheap games onto your Steam Deck compared to paying $80 to $90 for a Switch game, which I think is absolutely bonkers and insane. Another reason why I'm keeping my Steam Deck over the Switch 2 is for the community support. Now, we have a lot of awesome stuff that the community makes, stuff like decky loaded plugins, stuff like EmuDeck, and the list goes on. To see the community so excited for this device, and the fact that this is a PC, there's a lot of customization to where you can do fun things onto your Steam Deck, to where the Nintendo Switch is kind of a closed off console. So if you like to deck around, I'm just joking with that terminology, but if you like to mess around with your device, there's an option for that. And again, if you just want the console experience like the Switch has, you have SteamOS game mode for that as well. So again, the option that you have with the Steam Deck is another reason why I am keeping my Steam Deck, and also the community support too. All right, the final reason, like I stated guys, I mentioned community and I mentioned EmuDeck, but the fact that this device can actually emulate the Switch is incredible. Now I know, right, again, we're not getting Switch 2 games yet, right? I feel like eventually we are going to get emulation, the Switch 2 emulation, but the fact that there's still killer games that are on Switch that you are going to have to pay extra to get onto the Switch 2 enhanced version, the fact that you can just emulate those games like Breath of the Wild, right? And we have Metroid Prime coming out for the original Switch, Metroid Prime 4. We should be able to emulate that on the Steam Deck, which I think is absolutely incredible. So emulation goes a long way, and I feel like the fact that you can emulate the Nintendo Switch is a huge win. So that's another reason why I'm keeping my Steam Deck over the Switch. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of reasons, but I'm curious to know what are y'all's reasons of why you guys might keep your Steam Deck over the Switch 2. Curious to know that, so let us know in the comments below. Alright fellas, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Till next time, peace out.